Welcome to this segment of Smarter Dating. I'm handwriting analyst Christina Powell from smarterdating.org. Today I have analyst Dacia Weist from dscribe.net, that's dscribe.net, with me. And she and I are going to talk about how to see pregnancy in a woman's handwriting sample. Welcome, Dacia.
Hi, Christina. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being with us today. Well, we have a couple of samples to look at today, and that includes one from a woman who has had twins. Now, I understand that you've seen pregnancy in a good 30-plus handwriting samples now. Who have you analyzed exactly? Friends, family, clients?
You know, a little bit of everybody. We did one time go down to a baby clothing store and hung out one afternoon just to have fun and to get a little practice doing this, and asked every pregnant woman to walk in the door if we could guess what sex of their baby was. A lot of other people have been my friends and coworkers. Just about anybody who knows I do this asked me if I can see what sex of their baby is.
Great. So you've had a lot of good experience, and it sounds like you've been real accurate.
Yes, I've only missed a couple of them. One, I tried to see the pregnancy a little too early in the handwriting and got a false positive on the specific sex. The other one I used had a lady use a gel pen. I'll never do that again. The gel pens aren't as accurate.
Right, I've noticed that with gel pens too. They tend to leave blobs everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And if you're looking for a specific small dot, when you get a gel pen that's leaving blobs, it absolutely looks like maybe a pregnancy or a health indicator that it's not a false positive.
Right, so that's something to look out for. All right, well, where did you learn how to tell pregnancy in handwriting?
You know, I've been studying handwriting analysis under Karen Weinberg for almost a year now. And a gentleman named Don Layfield, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a handwriting expert out of Texas. And he gave a lecture about spotting handwriting, pregnancies in handwriting, and he also was very, very accurate. And it was during that lecture that I was able to learn a little bit about what to look for, and then just kind of doing it. The more you do, the more you see them, and the more they show up, and then it becomes easier and easier, like anything.
Right. Yes, I do know of Don Layhew. He was a guest speaker for the Coalition of Handwriting Analysts International a few months ago, and he's a great expert. He's really in the know, and I believe he's a doctor as well.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's very wise, and as far as a handwriting guru, he knows a lot. Karen Weinberg as well has just been a great mentor to me.
Great. Well, I've heard, and especially from Don, that looking for dots in the letter O and the number 0 is one way to find pregnancy indicators. So has that been your experience? Is that accurate to say?
Yes, it is. And one of the things, it has to be a dot. A lot of times, as you know, health indicators show up as heavier pressure. When you have flashes or things that maybe look like they're radiating, those normally aren't pregnancies. You want a perfectly round dot. And that's really where you can see that it's a pregnancy and not another health problem.
Right, so elongated dots, smears, breaks, all those aren't going to do.
No, they have to be. And sometimes they're a lot smaller. Sometimes when you look at pregnancies and women are having backaches and their hips hurt and their knees hurt, you're going to see other health problems. And that they are going to be not as round, and not consistently in the same place. That's another thing with pregnancies. You have to look at several different O's, zeros, and you'll see the dots show up exactly precisely in the same spot in almost every sample. And that's a really good way to determine that it's a pregnancy and not another health issue.
Right, that makes complete sense. And also a good point might be to get out a magnifying glass to make sure, especially when the dots are kind of on the small side. Mm-hmm. That'll help with accuracy, too.
Absolutely. It's really difficult to see with the naked eye. If you're doing it without a magnifying glass, I have found if you put the sample up in a window where you're having light come from behind it, sometimes the dot will show up with just looking at it without using a magnifying glass or something larger.
Ooh, excellent advice. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Well, let's take a look at the first sample. We have the sample that says crystal, and the date at the top says 10/10/2000 for our listeners to refer to. Right. How can you tell in this first sample that this gal was pregnant at the time?
10/12/07, what it shows down in the lower right, was her due date, and I wish I would have remembered when she actually took the sample. But if you look, let me find a really good example. On the number 100, the second one down, you'll see a small if I remember right, she was barely on her 13th or 14th week when we took this. So you can see a heavier roundness on that first 0 in 100. If you look at the one right below that on the 1000, the same dot shows up in that same spot on the first 0 in 1000. Actually, on all three of the zeros in 1000, you can see that the dot on the left-hand side is barely on the left. It's not at the very bottom of the O. If you cut the O into quadrants, it would be in the lower left quadrant.
I see that, yes.
And that shows that she's pregnant and just starting her second trimester. As the baby grows, that little dot is going to move up the side of the O. So when she's almost ready to have the baby, you'll see the dot almost at the very, very top.
Okay. So, they're going to be toward the bottom when it's earlier in the pregnancy and move upward as they become more and more pregnant, if you will.
Right. Another good example on crystals, the last 0 in 2000.
Yes.
Yes.
That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's a really obvious one you can see with the naked eye.
Right. So that's how, and also how we can tell how long they've been pregnant is where those dots are located.
Yes.
Very interesting. So that pretty much applies to all samples.
Yes.
And all women.
Absolutely. They all start, and if you think of the O as the belly of the mama, I guess, so to speak, that's the reason I think with the roundness, it shows up right there in that area, of course, and then as it grows, it goes up that the size of the O.
Right. It's kind of representative of the shape of the stomach at the time, perhaps.
That's my guess.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, can you determine the sex of the baby from all this?
Yes, ma'am. The baby, when it appears on the left, is a girl. When it appears on the right, it's a boy. Now, why that is, I don't know. But I've heard rumored Don Laser says it's because men are always right. But of course, a lot of people could argue that. But that is the way I remember it, as well as the boys do come on the right-hand side and the girls come on the left-hand side.
Well, that's interesting, and one good way to try to remember anyway, whether you agree or not.
Yeah.
All right, so Crystal was having a girl, and this was kind of early on in her pregnancy. So neat. Let's take a look at the second sample. This one was having twins. Tell us more about that.
Sure. This is a good friend of mine. Her name's Denise, and she had twins. And upon first looking at her sample, it appeared like there was a boy and a girl. However, the dots on the left-hand side were inconsistent and inconclusive. But there were two dots on the right-hand side that were consistent throughout the writing. A good example to look at without a magnifying glass would be in the second 0 in the 2007 on line number 2. Right before, I know that the 0 looks more like a D, but right before it goes curving upward, you can see a heavy dot, and then right above that a lighter dot. That is two boys, and she did indeed have two boys. But that's there if you look on the 2007. If you look again, it shows up on several of the other O's. Once again, looking without a magnifying glass, 30 after October, the 0 and 30, and also on the word look, the first 0 on the word look. You can blow those up and see the two small dots showing up in the same spot, and they are really round. It is. I should note that it is easier to see these on the original samples, being that this is a copy, and then an emailed copy. Definitely, when you have real samples in the original samples, it's a lot easier to see.
Right. So we have to make sure that we know the difference between what it's going to look like on a copy and what it's going to look like on an original, and especially on the copies and scans and so on, you want to be sure to get out a magnifying glass and, like you said, put it up to the window and look at it through the light, which is a great idea.
It helps a lot because it does, when you get copies, you do sometimes get tracers or weird things that come across because of the print, not necessarily because of the handwriting.
Right. Now back to the two dots on the right for boys. Does that mean that if we had a boy and a girl, the girl dot would be on the left, if you will, and a boy dot will be on the right?
Yeah, that's right. One of the things that was inconsistent about this is when we were finding the girl dot on the right, it wasn't in the same spot. It was kind of all over the right, which may indicate some pains that woman was having with the pregnancy. So you do want to find consistency. And because that dot didn't show up consistently, On the left-hand side, we determined it was indeed 2 boys. Because if you look, once again, on the original, it was a little easier to see, but you could see the 2 dots showing up consistently in the same spot. And like I said, as the pregnancy progressed, the dots definitely moved a little farther up.
I see. That's pretty neat. That's good to know. 2 dots on the right, twin boys. I hope everyone can see that on their sample, all of our listeners. Well, when you were pregnant and you have a 12-year-old, were you analyzing handwriting at that time? Did you get to take a look at your handwriting from that period?
No, but after you sent me these questions, I have to say I did go out and dig out the old day planner of my doctor's appointments.
Oh, great.
To see if I could see. And I'm glad that you brought it up because indeed we were able to see my daughter in the pregnancy. And because it was a journal of my doctor's appointment, I think it's going to be a great example. In fact, I'm thinking of scanning it because you can see as the dots move up, as she's getting more and more, I'm getting more and more farther along in my pregnancy, the dots do move up, and you can see towards the end of the pregnancy some health indicators showing up in my lower back, and I thought that was amazing. So I appreciate you bringing that up because I went and dug some writing out myself, so it was very interesting. But no, I've only been looking at the handwriting for about a year.
Great. Well, that is really fascinating to know, and that you could go back and take a look at that, too.
Yeah, I'm really all about journaling. I think handwriting is a dying art, and it's good to have things written down. Good. In this case, this is actually excellent that I did this because I do have all the handwriting when I was pregnant.
Right. And because you journal, you'll always get to be able to look back on your handwriting and see how you've changed over the years, too.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Absolutely.
That's something I would really recommend to people to do on their own as well. Well, interestingly enough, I know of a fella, actually, who experienced a sympathetic pregnancy. He got morning sickness, he grew a baby belly, not a beer belly, and had really strong labor contractions at the time of the birth. And they actually had to give the poor guy painkillers. So I guess we can, as an aside, say that men really do understand what it's like to be pregnant, huh? Some of them do anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So have you ever had the chance to analyze the handwriting of a father-to-be?
No, but I think it's fascinating. If any of the listeners out there want to submit their handwriting, that would be fabulous. One of the things when you do get handwriting samples to analyze, I'm sure you know, is you want to know the age and the gender of the person that writes it. So it would definitely be interesting to see if it shows up in a man's handwriting when their wife is so far along. It is interesting, as the sex of the baby is determined, that you can't tell real early in the pregnancy, but it would be so interesting to find out with a man if that shows up. So definitely, send in your handwriting.
Yes, absolutely. I will put that call out to our listeners and watchers to either send it to you, send it to me, send it to both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see it.
Yes, they can send it to Dacia at dscribe.net, DACIA at dscribe.net, or myself at info@smarterdating.org. And we would love to see the handwriting of a father-to-be and to see if he is experiencing, especially a father who is experiencing a sympathetic pregnancy. We'd love to see if his handwriting changes due to that condition. Well, if you'd like to find out more about Dacia and her services, you can see her website at www.dscribe.net, or again, email her at dacia@dscribe.net. And I want to thank you, Dacia, for being here today to explain to us how to see pregnancy in handwriting, and to see the sex, to see how long the pregnancy is coming along, and it's really been fascinating. So I want to thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
Well, thank you, Christina. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed myself.
Excellent. Thanks.
To learn more about personality profiling for smart dating and relationship compatibility, visit smarterdating.org. No funny spellings there, just smarter dating. At our membership site, we constantly upload lots of great content about handwriting analysis, dating and relationships, face reading, analyses of handwriting samples, and a lot more. We've got audios, we've got videos, there's tons of articles on everything from the basics on up. And there's even a free video section and a public articles section, so you don't have to be a member to go and visit and get some really great info. We even have a place where you can sign up for a free mini course at Smarter Dating and get 4 days worth of basic personality profiling classes sent right to your inbox with no obligation to join. Or you can join Smarter Dating for a trial week, and for only $1, you are free to check out the entire site. As a member, you can have a sample of your choice analyzed every month. You can send in handwriting from your date or a potential mate, a family member, your boss, a friend, whoever you can think of, even yourself, and that's included with your membership. Well, I'm Christina Powell. Thanks for listening today. Hope to see you on the other side at smarterdating.org.